How you guys doing? And today we're going to be talking about the 4 brand new Signet rings in Age of Empires Mobile, because many of you guys have been asking and discussing in the Discord and all around the community sections which of these 4 brand new rings are going to be the best ones to unlock on your account, which is a very good question, because you got to think, if you are trying to unlock a ring, especially a 4,000 cost ring, you hope you can get it used in multiple areas, especially as a free-to-play or lower spender, because they are very costly. It takes a lot of time to get that compared to going in and potentially picking up a bunch of blue rings like I have, all these epic rings, and having 2 actual cheap legendary rings with a 4K ring too. So you have all of these options to you, right, when it comes to investing, and it's a good question to ask yourself and to ask each other, what should you do with the 4 new rings, which is the Sage of Judgment, the Divine Warrior, the Celestial Spark, and the Radiant Thunder. And that's what I'm going to be discussing in today's video. So smash that like, comment, and subscribe. And let's just get into it, because the first thing is, if you didn't know, we have gone through what each of these rings do before on the channel. We actually leaked all of this out thanks to the community sending in some really good information on it all, and guess what, it is all true. So what we're going to go through is each of these rings, but compared to before, what we were able to do is actually go through the actual skill and how good the growth on it is. So you got to think, even if you unlock one of these 4,000 rings, you're going to have to start to level it up from level 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on to get the maximum out of your ring, right? And the first one is the Sage of Judgment. This is every 6 seconds you reduce your troop damage taken by 4.75% for 3 seconds, and then after 3 seconds you recover your units on 15.2%, but this is increased on might bonus. On top of this, you get some nice actual attributes, which is troop skill damage reduction. And this is absolutely sick to see. Having this on just means you're not taking as much burst damage as you see in the game at the moment, plus troop defense and health to actually again making your troops tanky so you can take these hits, which is really good. And when you go into the details and now checking these things out, you'll notice at the threshold, like level 10, you're getting a 2.8, 2.8, and a 1.4%, which isn't too bad. Going up to level 20 now, and just even having a level 20 ring is going to give you 4.8% troop skill damage reduction and troop defense with 2.4% health. I actually think having basically, even if you go up 1 level and get that 5% here, that is a lot of free stats to get even at level 20 for your march. So I actually really like this, and as you can see, when we keep going up and up and up to the final maximum, you're gonna get 10.8% troop skill damage reduction with defense and a 5.4% HP. It is absolutely tankiness here. I love the fact that I can reduce basically a bit of damage by 10%, which is just great to see on, again, your attributes, right? Your attributes of this ring. When we go into the skill now, though, this is again where things get interesting, because if we look at level 10, we're getting 6.7% and then a 21% on that might bonus. I'm going to be honest, I'm not too impressed with that growth compared to the 4.75. This is almost 5%. This is almost going up to 7%. So we're seeing basically like a 2% increase. I'm not too impressed with that. However, when we get to that level 20 threshold, you're hitting a 9.81% with 31.4. And you're going to think from level 1 to here, and this growth feels much better, meaning you're going to notice this compared to the 6.7%, which is quite nice. So you'll notice even at level 20 on this ring, and then we go back down to the attributes, you're going to get a really free tanky march just by equipping it on. So I am actually really liking this. Then if you just scroll down, and you can check this out yourself, guys, if you go in game, when you max it out, and when I think you should max it out, you're getting that 25% damage reduction, which is just crazy, and an 80% recovery rate, which is increased again by your might. So Sage of the Judgment, if you guys didn't guess, it is our boy Mehmed's signature skill. It is actually basically his signature skill thrown onto a ring, and then letting it fly. And don't get me wrong, it is a really good ring. So that's the first one, right? I'm not going to go which one I would invest in first. Let's go on all the rings so everyone knows what they are, and then we can be a little bit more fair that way. The next one is Divine Warrior. Really like this ring. This is basically for the swordsman in the game. Reduce the secondary strike skill damage of all heroes in your troop by 9.5%. Then you increase the active skill damage of the other 2 heroes in this troop by 4.75% and increase the activation chance of the customizable active skills by 0.47%. You get troop damage, troop attack, and troop defense. So it is a super offensive ring. And what's really interesting about this, again, which I have also stated before, is even though it is recommending at the bottom here all of the warrior swordsmen, which is 100% true, this also technically helps all of the tactical swordsmen too, because none of them care about secondary strike skill damage, and all of them would love to have extra active skill damage on their, skills, and increasing their own activation chance too on those active skills. So this is going to be very good for swordsmen in general that really care about those active skills. And as you can imagine, this does put a massive kind of question on our Skyward Knight here, because this does reduce heroes' damage dealt, but you increase your commander's damage by 3.23% and their Signet activation chance by 1.9. And what you'll realize between these 2 rings, they do both kind of serve a similar purpose, but one does one way better, right? The Skyward Knight is all about technically injecting your commander. So if your commander, aka Ramses, needs that damage and he really wants to pump out that damage, and it's only Ramses in that formation that's going to be doing it, Skyward Knight is going to be actually much better for that performance, especially for that march, compared to a Divine Warrior, which really does want something like a Miyamoto Yodit, or like a Yodit and Lagertha, right? 2 basic heroes in the lineup that can both deal damage, and they're not really reliant on a full support setup on their formations, right? So you can kind of see they're both doing the same thing. The difference is this is built for a double offensive march compared to a complete funnel, which is the Skyward Knight, which I actually like. I like the fact that swordsmen have this option now in their kit. And the thing is, when you go into the stats now on the Divine Warrior, it does get pretty good. I'm not going to lie. 2.8% again across the board for your troop damage, troop attack, and troop defense. But when you go up to level 20, you're on 4.8%. That's basically 5% on level 21. It feels good, dude. For a super low investment ring, going into just a level 20 for most free to players and low spenders in that early stages, they're going to get some actual good use out of this, right? And it's when you start to go up, and obviously it starts to scale, this ring does get kind of crazy. You're getting a 6.8% on your troop damage and your troop attack, but it's when you hit the 40 plus, it gets a bit absolute nutty again. 10.8% increase on troop damage, 10.8% troop attack, and 10.8% troop defense. Meaning, again, your troop, the formation, is going to be doing more damage and more attack overall from the troops alone. So really good ring in troop format, which is obviously what all of the warrior swordsmen do love. But it's when you get into, again, the skills. The level 20 skill for this feels insanely good, because you're reducing the secondary strike skill by 19.62% compared to 13.5 at level 10. But it's when you go down, you're now getting a 9.81% increase on their damage, right? And then that 0.98, that's basically on the brink of a 1% increase on activation chance, which might not seem much. But hey, if you're doing 100 activations and this is going to help you one time back faster, I'm taking it every single time. Especially when you know this 1% can be actually very game changing in duels when it does go off. So I would absolutely love this. But when you get to the maximum now, right, just to kind of showcase, this is 0.68% level 10. When we start getting to the maximums, right, this is when things get kind of nutty. Level 40, level 50, level 30 is okay, I'll be honest. This is when you get 1.3, so you're above the threshold. But level 40, level 50, I think, is where you want this ring to be, because you're getting that 37.8% on the reduction on your second strike skills, which you don't care about. but it's an 18.92% troop damage bonus, bro. And well, not troop, but you know, activation skill damage from your heroes, which is just nuts. But then it's also brinking again on the 2% almost marker, which is nice. And that is quite nice for the fact that at level 40, you're getting quite a lot of value without needing that super, super expensive Meteor Steel, which you need for the level 50 push on your Signet rings, which does, when you go for it, give you a 25% skill damage bonus on the other two heroes and give you that 2.5%, which is going to be noticeable again that you're going to feel. So I actually think for the swordsman, if you max this out at level 40 or 50, you're going to be laughing. But even at level 20, it's actually a pretty good ring. I'm not going to lie. For a level 20 ring, I would be quite happy with the effect and even the gear set side of things of the stats that I'm giving my swordsman, which would be basically the warrior swordsman or my tactical swordsman, depending on what I'm want to experiment with and what I'm running with on there, right? And then we got the Celestial Spark and the Radiant Thunder. And the Celestial Spark is basically going to be what everyone considers to be your bread and butter, if you want to say, the bread and butter of the good old pikeman. However, this is going to be a very interesting one again, because this increases the might damage dealt by your two heroes with the highest might by 3.8% and also reduces your troops' damage taken by 1.9%. This effect is kind of nuts because it isn't anything special on paper. However, you got to think, a lot of marchers like Lubu, you know, Mulan, right, deal might damage. And if they're running stuff like Mulan and Bellevue, well, I've just increased the damage of those two and reduced the damage taken with this good old ring. It also works, obviously, with the pikemen. So if you're running Cyrus and, say, like Vlad in the brand new season, or Cyrus, Boudica, and Mansa, you can definitely put this on the Mansa, for example, to boost the damage for the Boudica and Cyrus, and it's going to be match made in heaven. But what I'm trying to say is, if you've not guessed it, is a kind of cracked, potentially, might-based universal ring. And we want to test this so hard right now on the Pioneer server when we get around to it, but we have to hope we get access to it. Otherwise, we're going to have to wait for someone to do some tests on this ring with other might-based marchers. Because the thing is, when you go into the stats again, the gear and skill for this at low levels is just so good and so valuable, it's kind of crazy. 4.8% again, the troops damage increase and the troops defense, and you get troop health, which is so good, man. So you're getting 4.8% all the way across, and then when we scroll down, you get into 6.8 to 3.4, and then the bigger ones, though, the level 14, 50 hits, though, it's going to be 8.8, and as you guessed it, 10.8 on the maximums here. It is a lot of stats that you're getting, but the skill itself is just gets so much better. It's kind of crazy. The fact that this one increases it by 5.42% and reduces your troops' damage, and this is always on, by the way, by 2.71%. Then you've got the one at level 20, 7.85% increase in damage, while taking basically 4% reduced damage. You're almost doubled, right? What you're gaining up here, which is just, again, what you want to see. Right, level 30, 11%, 5.5, it's okay. I would probably stop at maybe 30 if you're more of a lower spender and you want to try and focus on multiple rings. However, it is the one ring that does reward you, as many people will tell you. 15.14% at level 40 with a 7.5% reduction in damage is crazy. And if this ring is as good as I expect it to be on multiple marchers and not just the pikeman, well, you're increasing your other two heroes by 20% and also reducing the troops' damage taken by 10%. And what's crazy about this skill compared to the other ones, if you guys didn't realize, the Ocean Tempest skill here is actually a passive, right? This is a passive-based skill. It's always in effect. So when you're in combat, you have this. It's just on. There's no timer. It's nothing. This is free stats to the march. I need to try and emphasize that, which is just crazy that your troops all get this, right? So Madness. Absolute madness, right? Now, Radiant Thunder to finish things off. This one is a lot more simple and a lot more streamlined. So this is going to increase the commander damage, troops attack, troop defense for its stats. And it says after a normal attack, you deal strategy damage to the enemy troop and you increase the activation chance of your commander's signature secondary strike skill by 0.95% for 6 seconds, meaning it's going to rotate at least twice in the effect for your good old commander, which is going to be Belisarius in this case, right? And this is the ring, if you've not guessed it, for the Tactical Pikeman. If you're playing Tactical Pikeman, you need this ring. I'm going to stress it out because it is basically extra damage on 1, and on top, it's increasing your effectiveness of your Belisarius, which is going to be king in this whole match, right? And what's really good is, again, you're boosting the main commander's damage, aka the Belisarius, even if you have this equipped to your Elizabeth or your Ashoka, as you can kind of see here, or even the Hannibal if you're running the cavalry version and having Hannibal in the second slot. You can have this on. It's going to boost up the Belisarius's damage as well in that cavalry commander position. Really, really good. When you go into the actual stats though, again, it's fantastic going across here. I know it's only 2.8%, but when you've got all of this boosts going to your commander from one thing, you need to kind of put it in some sort of control. So you're getting a nice 4.8 though, 4.2 should I say, on the troop defense and troop attack. But when we hit the level 20 mark, which is the one I typically like to see, well, most free-to-players and low spenders to try and aim for their rings. This is going to be 4.8% on your commander's damage, which is fantastic. 7.2, though, on the troop attack and troop defense, which is a bit overkill, if you want to say, for stats, right? So it is some good old stats that you can be putting on this Tactical Pikeman March. I think it's really good. If you just want to scroll down just to showcase the rest of them off, as you can guess it, if you hit the level 40 spike, 8.8% commander damage, and then 13.2 on the troop attack and troop defense, which is kind of crazy because obviously if you use your meteor steel, you're getting a 16.2% troop attack and troop defense bonus, which is just ridiculous, right? But the thing is with this ring, it is for your Tactical Pikeman. Remember that, right? It's kind of for your, I would say, Tactical Pikeman and your Tactical Cavalry at the moment. It's anyone that wants to do secondary strike skills and obviously deal strategy damage. So it's very tailored to one of them. So as we go into the next part, the most important part, which you guys are wondering, which of these 4 rings would I unlock first? I'm just going to tell you straight away, with Radiant Thunder, if you are planning or playing the good old Tactical Pikeman and you honestly need that ring, this is the one. I'm telling you now, if you have Radiant Thunder equipped to your Elizabeth, with a Radiant Guardian equipped onto that Belisarius, and even anything else like Tranquil Water or whatever you want, on that 3rd slot, you're going to be cooking. I'm telling you now, you're going to be cooking. You're going to be laughing at just how much damage you're going to be dealing, and what's even better is the more damage you're dealing, obviously the more assimilation is converting, which is obviously your troops recovering back into your march. So absolutely bonkers for that. Apart from that, if you're not planning on playing that formation, ignore it. Don't need it. You don't need the ring. It's just simple as that. Now, this is where things get interesting. If you're a Warrior Swordsman player, I do think you pick up Divine Warrior, because I do think Divine Warrior for Warrior Swordsman is actually better than Skyward Knight. However, if you are playing Tactical Swordsman, I do believe Skyward Knight is actually still going to be better for them at the moment, just because of the way that formation is set up. Like I said, the way these kind of swordsman rings are set up is to increase the activation and damage of the formation. However, the Skyward Knight does a bigger bonus and a better bonus because it's only hitting one hero, right? So you're getting so much value out of this on one hero, which is going to be your Ramses or your Sun Tzu. Really good examples for that. Even technically like Suleiman, even though he's not, you know, something crazy. I'm just trying to explain, like, marches with one key hero, right, that does all their damage. That's kind of what you want for the Skyward Knight. That's active base, right? But when you look at the Divine Warrior, I do think if you are playing Yodit marches, Miyamoto marches, Lagertha marches, any of the Warrior Swordsmen, I will say on video that I think this is going to perform better than the Skyward Knight. I can't see it not performing better, especially with right now where people are running stuff like Miyamoto, Tribuana with Lagertha as a massive popper, or even the same thing but Yodi, Tribuana, and Lagertha. That March has two insanely strong swordsmen that deal a ton of damage and provide a lot of utility too. So why not, right? And I just think this is going to be better for those situations than Skyward Knight. It just makes logical sense. So I think if you're a swordsman player that plays warrior, right? You're a warrior swordsman player, I think you unlock Divine Warrior. I think this is going to be your ring, and it's going to be your go-to ring for now for quite a long time for main damage input. And if you are wondering, you would equip this onto your good old Tribuana, because then it's going to increase the skill damage of your other two heroes, the Miyamoto, the Miyamoto, the Yodi, or the Lagertha, depending what, you know, formation you're running, right? So that's kind of that. Now, this is where things are going to be more interesting for me, because I will say there's two rings that I think you can unlock first for majority of cases, and it's going to be better in all of them, right? So I think Sage of Judgment, no matter what, is the safest, you know, ring to unlock. And if you didn't guess it as well, and I just want to point this out on video before it gets patched, there is a typo on Judgment. It's missing an E, right? It's misspelled. I'm just saying, right? But the Sage of Judgment here, why I think it's the best ring is just because Mehmed's skill, his actual skill in game, is one of the best supporting skills, hands down, right? If we go just to showcase off my boy wherever he is, I might have skimmed past him. Mehmed, where are you? Oh my god, where's my Mehmed? Oh no, I've probably gone past him. There it is. I've gone past him like 20 times. What's so powerful about this is the fact that obviously we get to trigger both of these effects at the same time, right? It's super powerful and it's super strong to reduce damage and to increase basically your secondary strike skills, right? So when you look at this ring, and this ring is telling you, look, you can reduce your troops damage taken for so much, and the recovery units on top of it, you bet your damn, you know, whistle that everyone's going to tell you to go for it, because it's a turn-based ring, meaning every 6 seconds this is always going to go off, which is great for a variety of different reasons, because it will always keep happening in fights. It's never going to keep losing value, which is one major one. But the fact that you're reducing troop damage taken every 6 seconds on top of whatever else you're doing is just crazy. And like I said, this is going to a 9.81% at level 20, which is no laughing matter, with a nice little bit of recovery added on. And the thing is, anytime you got this, you know, ring, maybe equipped to your Mehmed and so on, like it's suggesting here, or even the Timur, Mansa, right? Any of these marchers that really can just heal and want some troop damage, which is every march, it could potentially be triggering stuff like Peaceful Haven, right, on that hero that might have it equipped to their skills. So it's super synergistic, it's just super flexible, and I can tell you now, no matter what, Sage of Judgment is the safest unlock out of any of these rings. So if you want my advice now, this is the one ring I would suggest if you want to pick a ring that's 4,000, super safe, just like the Tranquil Water, which is a 1,600 ring, super safe. This is the one. Just because it's just such a powerful effect that people are starting to realize reducing troop damage taken is king. I've been saying it since the beginning of the year and when I started the channel, that troop reduction, like in damage, is king. And now people are starting to catch on and agree with that term. So I'm just saying, do not sleep on this ring. This is probably the safest one to unlock. You can use it on any march. Literally, any march. Go for it. So it does now end up on the golden question of Celestial Spark. And I'm going to be honest, if we do some testing and people start to comment down below and they have got the Celestial Spark and they are saying, yes, this is increasing the might damage dealt on my other heroes, like my Lubu March, like my Mulan March, right? Like my Swordsman March, right? I am gonna be kind of disgusted because this is gonna be probably the second best ring out of the lot, or maybe even the first, just because how good it is. You gotta think this is one ring for my base marchers. If it is working and it is as good as I hope it's gonna be for other marchers, that at level 20 or even just going to level 30, your other two heroes with the highest might are gonna have 11, right? 11% increase on damage dealt from their might-based skills, while you're reducing 5.54% troop damage. And that's all the time. It's there. So you got to think this is 5.54% added on to like your tranquil water. That is adding up on a lot of troop damage reduction that you're adding in, while adding a ton of damage into your troop march too. So I do have a lot of curiosities with this Celestial Spark, and if you do unlock this ring, please reach out to me if you want, and if you're able to, I would love to see some testing with you guys, and we could do maybe like a one-on-one video with it as well, just to see how good it is with other marchers that are not the pikemen. But if you are warrior pikemen, I will say you should be going for this ring as well. I do think this is a really powerful ring, and technically it is going to be your best in slot support ring alongside your good old Messenger of Destruction, which is your best in slot commander ring, right, which is increasing their damage output. So you got these two rings, which are both 4k for that one formation, which is super pricey, but hey, when you get them, I can tell you one thing now, you're going to be laughing at how good these two rings are together compared to the other combinations that you could be having when they're obviously leveled up. So there you go, all 4 rings all talked about. We've gone through all of them, all the skills, all the data, all that jazz, and I give you my opinion on what I think is the best rings to be going for, and the safest and best #1 ring that I would suggest for anyone to go for, just to be safe with anything on there. And just remember, it is your account. It is up to you what you want to do with your 4,000 coins. If you want to follow this advice or not, that's up to you. That's the whole point of making these videos, just to try and give you some information and kind of bounce ideas maybe of how you are looking at things and how you're thinking. So yeah, that is it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do the 4 brand new rings. And with that, smash like, comment, and subscribe. Until the next one, stay safe, stay sneaky. Peace out.